Welcome to the STATMed Learning podcast, where we teach you how to study in med school and how to pass board-style exams. Our host is Ryan Orwig, learning expert with decades of experience working with medical students, physicians, and those studying and practicing in virtually all related medical fields. In today's episode, Ryan chats with Jacob, an optometrist and STATMed alum who failed his boards so many times he came within a whisker of not fulfilling his dreams of becoming a doctor.
If anyone's ever watched like Tiger King, the beginning of Tiger King, they literally have the guy filming, the director, start opening up, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." That's kind of how I can summarize this to start off, is you're just not going to believe this.
What was your % chance of passing on that 7th attempt?
A chance of passing at that 7th attempt was right around 3%.
Hello and welcome to the STATMed Learning podcast, where we talk about learning and test taking in medical school and on medical board exams. I'm Ryan Orwig, creator of STATMed Learning, where we have been using our expertise in the science of reading and learning to help med students, physicians, and those in related fields like veterinarians and, as we are about to see, optometrists, among others, with studying on the one side and boards style test taking on the other since 2012. This is an episode of what we call our Crisis Points series, where we talk with clients who used our services to overcome a true crisis in their medical training and licensing. I'm here with Dr. Jacob, an optometrist who recently used our STATMed Boards Test-Taking Workshop, the Boards Workshop, to overcome a very specific issue he was having. Buckle up, because this one is going to be a doozy. Jacob, thank you so much for being here. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, no problem. I'm Dr. Jacob Davis. I am an optometrist. I'm currently working at a private practice in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. And thanks for hearing my story out on this. And you're right, this is a doozy.
This is a doozy. So you are currently a practicing optometrist. You're fully licensed. You're living the life. And I think the way these things go is people, go through whatever hoops they have to get through to get into their program, be it veterinarians, be it med school, be it an optometry program. It's going to be a lot of work. You go to your optometry program, you work your way through it, and then you take your boards. Now, for optometry, it's like a 3-part, part 1, part 2, part 3, I think it's called. And part 3 is more of a clinical skills type thing. But parts 1 and 2 are like the big multiple choice, single best answer, clinical vignette, all that kind of test, right?
Yeah, part 1's more of just basic science type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, it's like we have the cases that we have to interpret and go from there. Those are both paper style tests, multiple choice style tests. But the third one's just pretty much clinical, so that one was the easy one. But what you guys helped me with was 1 and 2.
Right. Yeah, we don't we don't really help on those like clinical observation skills. That's not our thing, because we're reading and learning specialists. And what we're looking at are, with the STATMed Boards Workshop, those people who identify as bad test takers at the clinical boards levels. Maybe there was stuff, ACT, SAT, MCAT, maybe, but maybe not. It's usually when you get to this level, these things are just a different creature. And it, and that's sort of the story we want to talk about today, is what you went through, because it was not that just like go to my optometry program, get through the years, take my test, pass, and go through. No, what did you compare it to? You compared this to some show. Somebody said something.
It's like, if anyone's ever watched like Tiger King, the beginning of Tiger King, they literally have the guy filming, the director, start opening up, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." That's kind of how I can summarize this to start off, is you're just not going to believe.
You're not going to believe the hoops you had to jump through, the travails, the challenges, and how long it took, and the perseverance it took. So I don't know, maybe tell us big picture, like what how would you say, like how many times did you have to take this test?
So for part one, I had to take it 7 times with the sixth attempt. Afterwards, after 6 attempts, you have to get permission from your institution to take the seventh attempt.
Right. So you, but
Um,
six, I mean, six fails is enough, right? And at
yeah,
six, you're kind of done, but you have one last lifeline that your program may or may not grant you.
right. And that's the big thing. And that's you got to kind of at that attempt, and I'll get into that a little
Yeah.
bit, but um, like to start off with like, at least talk about like each attempt real quick and kind
We'll
of
go through that, but let's
yeah.
tell us, so at the end of the day, you would, on that seventh attempt,
Mhm.
between 6 and 7, you found us, and we'll talk about
Yes.
all this stuff. We'll walk through it. You found us, you did the boards workshop, you
Mhm.
took it that seventh and final time, and how much did your score increase?
My score increased by over 126 points roughly.
What's the passing numbers so people have some kind of.
So passing, it's on a scale of 100 to 900 on the scale score, and 300 is passing. Before finding you guys, I was at 263.
Right.
And then afterwards, I got to like 380 something, 384. I mean,
Which
it
is
just I didn't
super
even
safe.
leave room. Yeah, I kept myself. I didn't leave a single ground on there after you guys. So
Yes. So big deal. And again, we'll talk about the odds. The odds were very low, statistically speaking, for passing after that many fails with those numbers, all that stuff.
mm,
So huge deal. So let's walk through some of this stuff. So you start off, you take your first, and we don't have to talk about everyone. You might have a point on each one. So
right.
walk us through each of these, and then sort of remember, we're going to talk about some of the bad advice he experienced and what it feels like when you're on the
Mm,
outside looking in, which again, guys, I talk to people about this every day, multiple times a day, sometimes, certainly multiple times a week. I hear these stories from all over the country and beyond, from people who are in med school, in medical practice, in related fields like optometry, veterinarians, PharmDs, PAs, all up and down the chain, all up and down the sequence. I hear these stories all the time. It's just very rare for someone to talk about this because culturally, this is a very painful thing for people to talk about. And again, Jacob's willingness to come and share this is just really powerful. I've done this since 2005. I've been doing it with StatMed since 2012. Everything we've done is what I've built, but it's very rare for someone to be able to walk us through this. So I just think it's a really powerful experience. And it doesn't matter the discipline, it doesn't matter the level. It matters the patterns that you guys are experiencing. So anyway,
right.
yeah, walk us through some of this. So talk us through it.
So yeah, so my first attempt at I'll just go 2 weeks before taking it.
Yeah,
I get a email from National Boards saying I haven't registered for it. 2 weeks before I was supposed to take it. I guess I did a half register and I wasn't fully aware of how to do the process.
sure.
So I had to scramble and take, I went to optometry school in Puerto Rico. So I had to scramble and find a testing center, and closest one was in Tallahassee. So 3 days before I had to fly to Tallahassee, take it. Um, the day before the test, or the day of the test, I was there. The test starts about 8 o'clock. I'm in front of a testing center at 7 o'clock, and it gets about 10 minutes till. I call them up. I'm like, where's everyone at? I'm at the wrong testing center. Five
Nice.
minutes down the road was the other testing center, and I turned a Dodge truck into a Corvette
Yeah.
5 minutes down there. So kind of really wasn't in the right mindset when I
At
first
least
took
you
that.
didn't end up in jail for speeding and running red lights. So that's the glass half full part of it. But the glass empty side is, so you, not an ideal setup. We talk
No,
about the way we want to train and sort of emulate, like almost like a sports training for an exam, and obviously that's suboptimal to put it mildly. So you rush
right.
down there, you take this thing, and this, what was the outcome of I mean, we know you didn't pass it,
It
but
was
how
like
far
a
off?
bear, like I was at the 100, the lowest you can get. I'm like, all
So we're
right,
starting at the lowest. I
yes.
think the moral of this story is, again, not being prepped, but if you don't come from a culture and the school doesn't train you for
Mm,
the nuances of like the cultural inside baseball kind of rules
Right.
for these tests, like little things like that can imbalance us. And the way we want to think about this is how we can attack the test
Mhm.
prep, the test execution to buy points from as many trajectories as possible. And
Right.
obviously looking back, like, yeah, that's some lost points there. So that
Right.
happens. So you find out you failed. Not only you find out you failed, you find out you bottomed out on it.
Mhm.
Not great.
So not the best. That's kind of what, using that as groundwork. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I just didn't prepare enough. My
Right.
advice for
But that's
people
an
that
easy
passed, yeah,
that's easy enough to say too, and to believe. Like, oh, I just need to
yeah,
train better, have a better mentality, do more questions. Now, are you guys still in school, in optometry school, when you take part one, or are you now out of school? No, because you're still in Puerto Rico, right?
yeah. I'm still in Puerto Rico. We were still in school. It's the end of the third year, about the second semester of the third year.
Yeah.
Is when you first can attempt part three. Some people, but it's about 60-40 split.
Attempt part three or
Part
part
one, yes.
right. Okay.
Yeah, part one, sorry.
Mhm.
We actually do have some that do part three first.
Sure.
But a majority of us take it in that first attempt in March. And then you have another attempt you can do in August, which you're still in school, your fourth year of school. So
Right.
they split it up twice a year, 2 attempts a year you get. But a
You can
majority of them
take
do
this
take
test.
it.
There's 2 windows in the year when you can take
Yes,
this thing, right?
yes.
Okay, keep going.
So with that one, I was like, all right, the people who passed in March were telling me, oh, you just had a weird like this is some of the bad advice I got from that first attempt is, oh,
Mhm.
you just had a very bad circumstance.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, you're right, but um, I kind of used that and said, okay, let's do this and let's make sure I get this on my second attempt.
Okay,
I
so
know them.
part one, the
Mhm.
consensus is yourself, others, bad prep, bad day, it's
Right.
early. Okay, so what did you change between attempt one and attempt two?
The biggest thing I changed was I made sure I was scheduled for the right test.
You
That
knew
was a
like
big
where
one.
and when to be. Good, good.
Yeah,
And then probably
the,
I presume, Jacob, it was more of the same. Your prep
yes,
involved more of the same. How much?
yeah,
So are we 6 months later and we do part two? We try attempt number two.
yeah. 6 months
Okay.
later, I tried attempt number two, and this one I kept doing my normal study stuff of just reading out of the study guide that they have, doing this, like just doing what everyone was
And
telling me that
probably a lot
they
of
did.
practice and probably a high volume of practice questions.
Oh yeah, high
Right.
volume. I
Okay.
like I think I was going through like over 1,000 to 2,000 questions that whole time.
Sure.
Um, and so I take the second attempt and everything was great. I'm like, okay, I have nothing could have stopped me on that. Felt like I did good.
Hold on. Were there pre-tests? Did you have any metrics, any numbers going into this?
No real numbers.
Right.
That's
So
one thing I didn't even
that's
check.
okay. No,
I
hey,
didn't,
hey,
yeah.
look, so we go in, but again, we're feeling better, which matters
Right.
to a degree.
Yeah.
And so you obviously you fail this one. What happened
Mhm.
with the score? Where are we score wise?
We're still in the 100s.
The bottom. Okay. So
Yeah.
more of the same does not elicit any change. Okay. So
Right.
then now look, and from the outside looking in, people can start to
Mhm.
wonder, maybe this guy doesn't have it. Maybe this guy's not cut out for this. Not everybody can pass something like a medical board, an optometry board. That's a reality. The
Right.
reality is not, this is not like you participate and therefore you get to win. That's not how it works in the medical field. Like, not everyone is cut out for it. Not everyone can pass. I mean, those are harsh things, but they're true. Okay.
Right.
So, and again, like, what we do is we're not teaching people to beat the test. That doesn't
Mhm.
exist at this level. This is about cleaning up your own interface. And right now
Right.
we're not even anywhere near that yet. So, okay. All right. So then, and this is 6 months again, you have to wait, correct?
Mhm.
For attempt
Yep.
three. So what were some of the advice you were given and what did you do to train between 2 and 3?
So the advice I was given was, "Oh, you just didn't know the material." I'm
Yep.
like, "Okay, that's fair enough. I probably didn't know the material, so
Well,
I."
what certainly we can always know more. We can
Right.
always know more, right? So it's logical to say, I didn't know enough. Well, scoring that low, I've got to study more. Now, then it gets into like things where if you can explain things to your peers and your professors and you do well clinically, maybe we have to start to suspect that there's a disconnect between the test taking and our knowledge, right? It should be
Yeah.
test taking should be a clear window.
Right.
Some of your peers, I'll use an eye example. Like my medical knowledge is not what people think it is. Like I'm a reading and learning specialist, and I can help a physician trained at Harvard pass their boards, but this medicine is not what this is about. So most people, so think about your peers that pass this thing. And you're like, I feel like I know as much as them. They're looking through an open window at an eye chart for the old, classic eye exam. Okay. Everybody, and then all the powers that be, and culturally, we think everybody who's going through the given program, optometry, med school, veterinarians, that everybody is looking through the open window and reading the eye chart, and then the results tell us what their vision is.
Right.
Except the truly bad test taker is being asked to read that same eye chart, but there's a window pane closed, and it's like got some warped glass. Maybe there's some spatters of mud on that window. Right. And you're being expected to read that eye chart. Then when you come back with like your vision is terrible, blah, 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 you're like, yeah, but the window was closed. But we don't know that. You didn't know this. A lot of people who are finding us don't realize that can be a thing. Right. So yes, like Jacob, man, go study more. And people who are bad test takers historically compensate. How? With robust over knowledge.
Right.
That is how they compensate. So you're like, all right. So what did that mean? Just study your eyeballs out and do more practice questions for the next 6 months? What's that mean?
That meant like, okay, I gotta pay for a tutoring program that focuses on just teaching me the material. And that's very costly is what that was. I was like, that was huge. I mean, costly. I'm like, I'll tell you the number I tallied up at the end of all this, but
so a lot of people might think that we are tutors, that David and I at StatMed are tutors, and we are not tutors, right?
No, you guys are like when I mean tutors, I mean like tutors specifically for knowledge based off of optometry.
Explaining concepts to you. Now, did you find that did you even need that?
It got to a point where I was teaching the tutor stuff. I was just like, I'm paying this X amount. I'm paying like $5,000 to have me teach you. Like,
yes,
I was like, okay, that's very weird in my mind.
But culturally, we feel like, well, what else am I going to do? Like, I need to onboard more information. Maybe this is the way we think culturally. Tutors are a thing, and I'm not against tutors. Like, some people need tutors, absolutely. Right. And there's a whole industry out there for that. That's great. But some of the people that I meet don't need tutors. Like, they'll even say, like, it's no single concept that's that hard. Even on the study side, we're teaching study skills on the one side that can be for the classroom years, the didactics, or for the test taking, like we did with you.
Right.
But it's not about that for a lot of these people. So, but again, like, it's just an easier thing to purchase and deliver. Like, yeah, I'll go through this content with you. And maybe it's a way to be more active or something. But yeah, so obviously that wasn't as desirable. So you did that, and you then took attempt number 3. I think we're on.
Yes, I was getting ready to take attempt number 3, and a week before attempt number 3, COVID happened and shut down everything.
And COVID enters the scene.
Yeah, it enters the scene. It was literally, I think we were going to plan the test I was planning to take was a Monday. The federal government through that said everything's got like on that Friday. And I'm sitting in my apartment in Puerto Rico with another gentleman who's getting ready to take it. We're like, okay, what do we do now? We're like, okay, well, let's just keep studying because this won't happen for long.
How long can this COVID thing last? Right.
Yeah. How long can it last? They say 2 weeks. Okay, well, we'll take the test in 2 weeks.
Right.
Like after all the barging and all that stuff, it was like 6 to 7 months later for that test.
So you basically lost a cycle plus.
Yes.
So but yeah, more training, more time. I mean, and there's all kinds of complications with that. And this is a hopefully one-off fluke in our lifetimes. But so yeah, but then you take a delay. There's a delay. Then you take it a third time, and what happens?
And take it a third time, and during the test was where we had to take the mask on, everything, and it was just looking back, oh, it was hilarious. And I'm wearing glasses, so every 3 seconds during the test, it's fogging, and like I do this because if I take my glasses off, I can't see anything. It's
Yeah.
that bad. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm doing this, and it was a time issue,
Oh yeah.
is what
Yeah.
that came to it.
So did you
Still
bottom
at
out
the
again?
100, still
No,
at the 100.
bottom,
I
bottom of the
bottom
barrel.
at that one.
But still,
So
really, of the three, you've only really had one clear run, but it was also at the bottom. All right. So then
right.
after three, I mean, obviously, let's talk a little bit about how you're feeling when you come after this third failure at the bottom.
So I literally I felt like maybe I can't do this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just I don't know anything. Maybe it's just I can't be a doctor. And it's a shame because I've been wanting to do this since kindergarten, as an optometrist. It's like it's kind of you feel hopeless and you feel like you're just like, oh, what else is there to do?
Well, and you're
I
also, I'm
just
assuming the debt you've taken on is probably
oh,
pretty hard to
ridiculous.
ridiculous, right? The dream feels like it might
Mhm.
be I mean, you gotta wonder, is it over?
Right.
The school, are you now out of school at this point?
So yes, going from the third to the fourth attempt, I'm out of school,
So now
and
you're all out in the wilderness, so to speak.
yep. And with my school, they don't give you your degree until you pass part one. So you don't get your paper
Hmm.
degree, the piece of paper, until you pass part one in that case. So it's like at this point, I'm like, I'm doing all this. I'm not in school. I'm not learning. I don't even have a piece of paper to look at that I'm
Sure.
paying on.
Right, right.
Like,
Every little thing matters here, right? And where
right.
do you end up living at that point?
So I end up just living at home.
So you come back home and you're like, I mean, and
What am I?
again, the existential crisis here, the financial crisis, for
Mhm.
like my outlook on, I mean, it's bleak.
It really is at this point because I'm like, okay, now I have to get a job to pay for these attempts, and each one of these attempts are around 1,000 to now I think they're up to $1,300. So it's like, how do I get this money? How do I do this? So I have to start working as a tech
Right.
as I'm passing this, or since I have optometry background and an extensive background optometry, it's like I have to be a super tech at this point. So I started having to work and study at that same point now, and
Brutal.
balancing
And it's
that was
all into the
brutal.
void. It's all into the void of the unknown. Like, and it's all hope. It's all
Hmm.
just hope without data to support it. It's belief in
Right.
yourself. I mean, I hope I don't like the respect I have for somebody who's in the wilderness on their own
Mhm.
trying to map this out. I mean, it hurts just to imagine, but I have profound respect for it because like you're just on your own.
Yeah.
And then yeah,
You
going in and working in a I guess you're working in an optometrist office.
I was working originally as a tech for at a commercial one, lens crafters for a little
Okay.
bit,
But
and
you're
then ended
working at a
up getting
place where you should be the guy at the head of the table.
right. It really is, and I'm sitting there, and I mean, I'm just looking. I'm like, and the only good part about that is my next one was part two, and I passed that
So
because
you
of
then
it
got
was more
started to see
clinical. Yeah,
signs of life. You're like, I can do this. So
right.
you
And I
passed part
barely
two.
right in between the third and the fourth attempt, and
Okay.
that was like clinical based type of thing. And it was
Yeah, more
like I
clinical
barely
skills,
squeaked
more like
by.
step two for our med students and stuff like that. Um,
Exactly. And I
so you do that. Okay, now so then you're doing that, you're prepping attempt four.
attempt four, I go into it and boom, I get a I follow everything I did for part two because it's like I passed part two. So what do I do there to do here differently? And I fail. I go into the part four or the fourth attempt and I fail. But it's a little better. It's at 163. So I got out of the
What give us one or
100
two things?
void.
What one or two things you changed that you saw that worked in for your part two success?
So one or two things that I changed with part two, I kind of essentially made up a story of how these cases, because these are clinical cases that you're
Mhm.
given. So it's like, okay, I can look at creating the story. What if this is in my chair? What can I do? And what am I
So you
supposed to do?
framed
And
it
that
much more clinically.
Yes, I put
Okay.
a realistic twist on the test and see
Okay.
what would I
And you
personally
can do
do.
that in a like a part two, more clinically based,
Yes,
allows
then
for
part
that. Doesn't
one.
really translate to the biological science basis of
No.
part one. But again, you got to do what you got to do to get
Right.
through. And there's not a single right path for these things either. Okay, so you
No.
do that. So you see some improvement.
Right.
Part four, still or your fourth attempt, still don't
Mhm.
pass. So then, any advice given between 4 and 5? Any more bad advice you're given?
So there
Um,
was no advice between 4 or 5. They would tell me I essentially went more into depth through a tutoring program that
so
um
same tutoring program, different tutoring program.
it's the same tutoring program. They start a new set of like tutoring with it to where you are in like a community and you try to like do a specific one-on-one tutoring versus with a group tutoring, which costs more money. And that money, I started doing that a little bit more intensely, to thinking that, okay, let's see how this helps,
Sure.
because I had no other option. There's literally only one tutoring program out there for optometry.
Right.
At least what I was thinking
Sure.
at the time, there was only one thing out there for me, so I might as well just go full on into this. um
Logical.
and I did that for the fourth attempt, and or fourth into the fifth attempt. No real change. And it's just like I was madness at that point, because I was like, I didn't change anything, so what's
Well,
going on?
definition of
Like,
insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And we can, that's very, like, I like that saying. And I think it's an important thing for people to think about when they think about using our services. But also,
right,
I think you got to be careful with it because it's frustrating, right? Because, like, what sometimes
right,
it's like, I get that, but what else can I do? Like, that's
right,
what somebody in your situation has to be like, yeah, dude, I hear you, but what else can I do? I've got to keep my feet moving
right.
or
And
death.
I would always talk to people who passed these attempts when
Yeah.
I didn't pass, and they would literally tell me, just, you got to go full on into this program. That's it. You got to go full on in, like
Full
head
on into
first.
like
I'm
this
like,
tutoring program, right?
yeah,
And
this
so
tutoring
then it
program.
makes you feel like maybe I don't believe enough. I feel like it gets to a point of like emperor has no clothes kind of story. It's
Right.
like maybe the problem, like you're like looking around like I don't think this is going to help me. All right, so
Okay.
now that takes us to attempt number 5.
Right.
How did that one go?
So
Obviously,
attempt
it's not great.
Yeah, not great. Attempt number 5, I still was doing the same thing as 4, because everyone was telling me everything, and I was just like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but maybe it's I just need to take a step back. So I took a step back and just breathed
Yeah.
from after the fifth attempt before going into my sixth
Oh wait, so
attempt.
you took fifth and still so no improvement on the fifth.
No
Okay.
improvement whatsoever.
So then so we step back, take a breath
Mm.
before the because now sixth is it's not the final, but it's kind of the final attempt.
Yeah, it's like the final attempt before you gotta go kiss the school's rings.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And they could
that's
say no, I presume, right? They could say no.
yeah, they could say no all they want if I don't have a plan in place. Like,
Okay.
it just makes you feel, we'll get into that a little bit more.
Okay.
But so I took a step back thinking maybe it's just I just need a breather from this. And I technically needed a break. I was just literally, for going 2 years outside of school now, I was just
Studying nonstop with only negative reinforcement. The only thing that's happening, so you're holding your
mhm,
hand over the flame and it hurts,
yep,
and you're not letting yourself pull it back. You're saying I'm going to keep on going, which again, much respect for it, but they're all things will break with enough pressure put on them. And
exactly.
the constant negative feedback is
Yeah.
no matter how strong you are, I mean it takes a toll, I'm sure. So
Yeah, it was like one of the worst things I could think of in that look, and I was like, yeah, I just got to have a breather. So at that point, I wasn't able to financially do another one, because I was dumping a lot of resources and money into it that I just didn't have.
yeah.
So going into the sixth attempt, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna do everything I can. We're gonna take it in August instead of taking it in March, and
So
just,
you let one cycle go and
yep,
you gave yourself almost a year.
yeah, I gave
You're
myself
like,
a
I'm going to
year.
throw everything at it, meaning what?
Yep. Meaning I'm going to do 2 rounds of this tutoring program that I was told that would work. For the knowledge, make sure I had the knowledge down.
Yeah.
Um, and I had enough space to make sure I can do that. I can know the books, everything, knowledge by the knowledge wise, but like the back of my hand, pretty much.
Sure.
That's what I really wanted to do, and I did that.
Makes sense.
And this, I take the sixth attempt, and every single attempt, the last two attempts, funny enough, the results come out while I'm on vacation in Myrtle Beach with my family.
Naturally.
And it's always that last day of the beach trip. So it's like, oh, what the heck? Like, I don't get to enjoy my vacation because I'm stressing out that whole time. This one was the worst one.
Yeah.
I'm literally
because this one is like, if I don't pass this time, it's very near the end. If not,
it's the end.
Not even knowing if it's the end or not. Like, you get one more chance or not. It's just an added stress, honestly. So anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So going into that, like doing it, I felt good coming out of that test. We have to wait like 4 to 5 weeks afterwards. I'm literally at the New River Gorge, sitting there with my girlfriend at the time. She's my fiance now. Going like looking at it, trying to enjoy it, and then I get a text from my friend. Oh, board scores came out. I'm hyperventilating in the car, running back to my car, doing that, and then I see 263 with an F next to it. I'm like, I failed it, and I'm just sitting there. I still have like 4-hour car ride with my fiance driving, and I'm just like, I use the analogy of that was my dirty diaper phase. It's
elaborate.
The elaborate on this, the derby diaper is like you're just sitting in your own, the feeling of just sitting in your own crap and not changing anything, just sitting there, just like you're just in crap. Yeah,
uncomfortable to you, it's uncomfortable to everybody else. It's all bad.
Exactly. And I'm just like, you know, and I like using that word, the dirty diaper phase, because you can do one of two things at that point. You can sit there in that diaper and just sit there in your own crap and just, you know, fester and let it go. Or you can get up and change it and do something about it. Yeah. So that's why I mean, so what I did with that one, it was a tough pill to swallow because I had to go back and get a hold of my school, kiss the ring.
How far out of graduation are you since you had left the school at this point?
3 years at this point.
We are 3 years post finishing your optometry program. 3 years. We're at
3
6
years.
failures. You're off in the wilderness, quite literally the wilderness of the New River Gorge, which is beautiful in West Virginia, beautiful outdoor recreation, national recreation area. So literally and metaphorically in the wilderness here.
Yeah.
3 years out. Okay.
3 years out. Yeah.
But you have to go back to the school. And not only do you have to you actually have to appeal to them.
Yep.
But I guess you got to present a plan. So where are we at this point? What is that?
This is where I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? And in my last attempt with a student who's from Pikesville, she's a doctor, Dr. Julia Bow. We were doing one-on-one tutoring with each other, just two students trying to pass.
This is someone in Pikeville, Kentucky.
Yeah, Pikeville, Kentucky School of Optometry. And she said to me, she's like, well, I know of something that they briefly told about that you might just be a bad test taker. Yeah. Why don't you just try to find a program?
I did an online lunch and learn with that program probably 6 months prior. So it was just like, I just popped in on a Zoom and people were eating and I talked about test taking. It's like the 5 bad test taking talk we have on. It's like linked on the website on YouTube. But I said a talk there and that was the chain.
Yeah, it was through a different school, through a different person. And I will thank her every day for at least sending me the link to your guys' stuff. Because I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. And I just went through the first video and I got mad. I was like, where the heck was this my first attempt? Like, this explains me into a T. I'm like, it's like I was beating my head against the door.
So I think you're probably talking about like the 5 reasons smart medical students and physicians fail board exams, like a 45 minutes, like a TED Talk style sort of talk I do. We'll maybe link it here. But yeah, it's great because like to me, if people see that and they're like, that's me, great. But a lot of people will see it and be like, okay, interesting or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Like we don't serve all these people, right? But for the certain bandwidth, that we do serve, they'll watch that and be like, they'll be creeped out. They're like, that's weird. That's like he's talking about inside my brain. This is the first time I've ever heard somebody articulate what I've been going through. And I think that's what you probably had, like a real like
It
crazy.
was like it was the biggest aha moment of my entire educational career.
Yeah.
And I was like, I instantly try to get a hold of you. I put that into my plan for the optometry or for my school. I put it into my plan, and the dean of my school has to review the plan and give us approval. He emails me back. He's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "You don't know what this is?" He's like, "Yeah, explain this to me." So I sent him the link to that. I explained that this is not so much a knowledge-based stuff because I know the knowledge. I was literally teaching people in these tutoring programs stuff for the knowledge stuff, and people couldn't figure out why I wasn't passing. So I told them all this, and I said, I know this has got to be what is wrong with me.
Now, Jacob, have you and I spoken yet at this point, or were you just
no?
So you're just using the videos that you found online,
Right. We haven't spoken yet. And because I was waiting for him to approve this whole
right, makes
plan
sense. Sure, right.
before I, talk to you guys. So he approved it. He's like, let me know how everything goes with this. I'm interested in this. And so I get a hold of you guys, and through like phone calls and stuff and talking and
well, what happens is somebody will reach out to me, right? Usually like, there's like a form you fill out. It's like real easy. You contact me, and then I just want to, if I'm like, okay, look, now what'll happen if I can decide, are you knowledge? Is it more of a study side or a test taking side? Maybe we need a conversation to sort that out, or maybe you can just tell from the outset. And then once I know, I'll send you sort of a PDF typically of like in this situation, the boards workshop. Now we have this thing called the deep dive that does like it's a 15-minute video that really explains all the logistical nuts and bolts of the workshop. But I'd say, hey, all right, does this fit you? Then we had that informal interview. So you and I would have talked, and I, get like your history, where you're coming from. I feel it out. I've done this for 20 plus years at this point, and I'm pretty good at like getting a sense of it, because it's not, some people need a tutor. So I'm like, no, you need to go get a tutor. Like, that's not me. That's not me and David. So I'm like, okay, let's feel this out. Does it feel like it's test taking? It's sort of an organic screening process.
Right.
And then, I talked to you and I was like, Jacob sounds like an absolutely atrocious test taker. And I'll say that to people, and I'm like, I don't mean this to sound bad, but you sound terrible. But I mean, is what it is, right? Like, I don't want to lie to somebody. I'll be like, no, this isn't for you. I think you sounds like a knowledge thing, or you're looking for something we don't provide. Fine. I'm not a salesman, but it's really exciting, obviously, to me, when someone fits those profiles. It's like, oh yeah, there's nothing new. And you were honestly one of the first we'd had a few optometrists come through. But you were like one of the first ones. I was like, oh, and there might be a few little nuances, but our examples are all human medicine examples. I put a ton of veterinarians through our workshop, because everybody uses their own practice questions throughout the work, the span of the workshop and beyond. So it doesn't really matter in that sense, as long as the person fits the patterns, which you certainly did. So then we talk and we get you lined up with David, right? Because they gave you the green light. So now we're sort of pivoting here and talking about the workshop itself. And now we go to the workshop, and you start the workshop. So I don't know, what can you say about the workshop, would you say? I mean, because you didn't even find us on the internet. You found us through a colleague. So the workshop is a very specific scope and sequence. It is a conveyor belt, but it's an artisanal conveyor belt. It's not like a mindless conveyor belt. Like I saw this movie Ford versus Ferrari, like Christian Bale's in, I think. They talk about like everybody knows like the Ford process is a very like the whole assembly line thing, right? That's not what we are. Whereas the Ferrari, you could say it's like, it's a process, right? But it's very artisanal. It's very crafted. That's what we are. So I guess I'm comparing ourselves to a Ferrari. Great. Good enough, right?
We've good. Exactly. It's good. I mean, that hits your process nail on the head. It wasn't like going from an optometry type of tutoring program to where it's just cut and dry, boom, 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 to your process, it was very like smooth, and it wasn't like we had to fit into this box. It was like, okay, let's try to, the box was more like a wave to where you can kind of specialize it to where our needs were.
Right.
And
Well, I
that's
mean,
what
there's
I
a very
love.
specific architecture with all the
Right.
discrete steps. But then what happens is you'll find the things that you're doing wrong in those patterns, and it gives you the names of the
Mm,
patterns instead of saying that was a dumb mistake, which is a big, vague cloud. What were two or three of the main test taking patterns that you
mhm.
discovered with yourself?
The absolute biggest one is um sorry, the door just opened up there. Let me go back to original. The um the biggest one was the twisting.
So
I was
twisting,
twisting.
yeah, taking a square peg, because a square peg will fit in a round hole if you hit it hard enough, right?
Yeah.
So twisting is probably, I think that's the number one mistake that we talk about. Now we have about a dozen plus, depending on how you look at it, of these patterns is where reading and thinking intersect. And
Mm,
so a twist is where you take a clue and you modify, manipulate, distort, and you change it. It'd be looking at like 10 plus 10 plus 2, and then
mm,
being like, yeah, but what if that 2 is actually a 3? Aha.
yeah.
10 plus 10 plus 3 is 23. Nailed it. 10 plus 10 plus 3 is indeed correct, but
Right.
it's not the integer in the equation. And
Right.
therefore you are 100% wrong 10 times out of 10 on that equation. That is
Exactly.
the cartoonish way of saying it, right? So you were a rampant twister.
Oh yeah.
So
Through
destroying
and
yourself in
through.
what we call the first phase up in the vignette itself. Some people are really bad down here in the answer options. Some people are really bad in what we call the third phase, the tie break. It can be multiple things, right? But you were a very bad twister, making wrong answers appear to be right. So somebody then might twist, and then that's when they feel like they walk out of the test, they're like, maybe not that bad. Maybe I did pretty well. And that's when they're shocked because they weren't like running into like all these dead end holes that they have in their knowledge. Okay, so that's one big pattern type. Did you have any more that came to mind?
That was the biggest one. The second one was I would take, it was like we would get down to two
Narrow down to
choices.
2, so it's a tie
Yeah.
break. So it's our third
Tie break.
phase.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was the biggest one, was the tie
You
break.
were a bad tiebreaker, meaning
Yeah,
more often than not, you would narrow down to 2 than pick the wrong one,
exactly.
which is one of the biggest things we hear. Now, look, obviously, some tie breaks are knowledge based. You just get down to like the third level, and your knowledge is needed to be in the fourth or fifth level, and you just don't have that. That's a study
Hmm.
side thing. Now we can address that stuff too, but we don't
Right.
address that in the boards workshop. We deal with that in our reboot camp and our study skills class. But many bad test takers are coming to me, and they're like, I always narrow down to 2, pick the wrong one, meaning like overwhelmingly, right?
Right.
Typically, and there are a few patterns there that could dictate this. A lot of it is this, what I call a binary test taking mentality, is the corruption at the heart of it. And that's where the test taker, the physician, the med student, the optometrist, the veterinarian, they think secretly in their heart, or in their secret heart, or what they've been
Mm,
told, that they're supposed to know the answer when they click it, or that they're
exactly.
supposed to be able to predict the answer. We've all been told predict the answer. That is some garbage advice at this level. Why that
Oh yeah.
perpetuates is beyond me at this level. I just think people are not asking the questions about the whole process and the mechanism. Anyway, if you are someone who says, I always narrow down to 2, pick the wrong one, it could be like you
Mm,
narrow down to A and B. You know some stuff about A,
right.
but you don't know everything. And that
Exactly.
drives you crazy, or you feel like since you don't know everything, so then you just pick B. You might not even fairly even weigh B at that point. You might know less about B, or maybe you know a lot about B, but not in
Yeah.
regards to the clinical scenario. But
Right.
it's the dissatisfaction with the A in the situation, the safer choice, because the things you know do fit. You're just dissatisfied with one or two things you don't know. Bad test takers bad test takers are playing a rule in game, trying to rule wrong, trying to find the right answer and to rule it in. But that's a terrible strategy. Good test
Mm,
takers play a rule out game. Try to rule things out, look for partial
Mm-hmm.
false. A little bit false is all false. Now, again, a good test taker might be like, yeah, of course. These are not universally obviously true when you're in the trenches if you're a bad
Mm-hmm.
test taker. And I think all
Exactly.
these things certainly apply to you, as I'm saying them, right?
Is exactly right. I was just like, it's you hit the nail on the head with me on that. All that did apply, and it's never you and you just the word you just said is like it's never set for like you're not supposed to know. You're supposed to know the answer. There's so much factors in that. And that's the biggest uh like lie I can think of is like from like schools and everything is like, oh, we're supposed to look at this test. I have to know that answer 100%.
Terrible
No,
advice. But that is
terrible advice.
communicated to us culturally. It's like in the wavelengths, it's in the atmosphere. It just permeates test taking culture that
Right.
we're supposed to know. And I mean, the problem is like maybe like how many if you do 10 questions
Mhm.
at on the optometry level step like the part 1, how many out of 10 could you confidently predict without looking at the answer options?
Oh, confidently. I think when we did those things, the little breakdowns where I got
Yeah.
10, I could confidently predict 4 or 5, maybe tops.
Maybe that's probably high. I
Yeah.
bet that's high. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's,
if you told me 1 or 2, I'd be like, yeah, maybe. Like confidently predict without looking at the answer options. Much less when you click it. Like,
mhm.
would you bet your life on it being right? At least
No,
40 or
absolutely
50% of
not.
them, no way. It is like,
Yeah.
well, this is I've eliminated the wrong options, and
Mhm.
I'm choosing from the best of what's left based on what I know and what connects up here. Now, look, this workshop is a very meticulous step-by-step process. We have a blueprint, we're grafting it on. It becomes
Mhm.
the locus of control. Like it's like you're not even in charge. You're like, I'm just doing the system, We're
Right.
weighing options individually and coding them, offloading cognitive burden with
Mhm.
strategies and blah blah blah, right? I mean, it's all this stuff. It's so multifaceted, but it does come on board pretty quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
you did the workshop. It spans only 2 weeks, and then you're
Right.
training rigorously, diligently with it on your own afterwards. So, do you remember how much time you had between finishing with David and then taking the test?
I had roughly because I did it at the beginning while I was still going through the approval process. I think I got approved in December and they wanted me taken in August and I was done with your program in March. But
Right.
I still was taking that test taking skills you guys with every single problem I
Oh
had.
yeah, the reason you were successful, I can guarantee, is you didn't approximate it, you didn't
Mhm.
round it down, you
Nope.
dogmatically trained with it. I would
E-
assume.
Exactly
We tell
for
you
six
exactly how
months.
to train, and it is up to the individual to do it. And when you see these big jumps, it is
Hmm.
because of rigid, dogmatic, like
Hmm.
adherence to the system. So there are certain systems in life, like if I want to do like a weight training or a weight loss program, a fitness program, I could say, oh, I'm just going to do 70% of it and maybe get 70% of the benefit. Okay.
Right.
The workshop doesn't work like that. You cannot just like moonlight on it. You can't just take it and say, like, oh, I'll just do it with like 80% fidelity and get 80% of the benefit. It doesn't work. In my experience,
Hmm.
like we're talking like 90, 95+% fidelity to system to then unlock the fruits of it. And that's where you
Right.
see these big jumps. So you trained
Yeah.
rigorously with the boards workshop methodology, training for the
Mhm.
computer-based test, using the trainers, using the markers, all that stuff, so that
Right.
you were really bridging the gap.
Mhm.
You didn't have to wear a mask because masks weren't required, fortunately.
Yeah. Thank God.
Um,
Thank God.
and then you take this thing. You weren't walking. I mean, how'd you feel walking in? You weren't like I'm gonna nail. Like I 100% know I'm gonna nail it, right?
No, my
You tell
biggest
me.
thing.
I don't mean to speak for you. You tell me.
No, you're good. Like the biggest thing walking into this was I didn't want to leave since this was my last attempt. I didn't want to leave something on the table. I
Right.
wanted to just air it all out. If this is going to be my back is literally against the wall at this point. I don't you don't I'm on the seventh attempt. There's no guarantee they're going to give me another attempt after that. The chances of them giving me another attempt out of that is close to zero.
This was pretty much like it. You knew
Yeah.
like 6 is the limit. They're giving me this 7th, this grace period 7th,
Right.
and that's it.
That's it. So I went into it. I wanted to leave everything on the table. I didn't
But I'm
want to do
assuming what that
anything.
means, leave it on the table again, because again, I understand those statements, but I
Right.
don't always know what someone means by that, right?
I
Like I don't
wanted to
like
make
in
sure.
sports
Yeah.
coaching, I don't like people being like like win those 50-50s. Like I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like try harder, run faster. Like what's I just don't like that in sport. And I
Right.
don't like it when we talk about it in this arena. Like, and I already
Yeah.
know what the answer is, but
Yeah.
like what you mean, I believe, is that you like again offloading this into
Hmm.
the training of the system, sharpening each
Right.
and every step along the way. I believe is
Yeah.
what you mean by this,
Yeah,
right?
it's exactly what it is. I wanted to make sure that I had every single thing sharpened to the best of the abilities to where I know I had every single tool to my success right there, and I was using every single
And
tool
I
I
mean, but
could.
tool, I mean, I think you mean by all the different parts of the StatMed test
Yes.
taking system, right?
Yeah, every single part of that, but the breaking each question, reading just the question first, and then going back, and every single thing you guys taught me.
Yes.
I wanted to
And
make sure
and
every
that's where
single
you
thing was
see those
done.
kind of successes unlock is when
Hmm.
somebody does that. You know, if I were in your all shoes, that's what I would want too. I wouldn't want like vagaries. I wouldn't be like, yeah, you
Right.
got to figure out how to close this gap. I mean, I think we really close those gaps and give
Yeah.
you guys those tools to train. So then you do this thing. How did it feel on test day when you're in it?
So when I'm in it, I got through the first 50 questions, like, this is too easy. What's going on? Like, like, I started getting paranoid because I'm like, this isn't that it's supposed to be this easy. Every single time it's been harder. Like, why is this easy?
So
I got
easy
done
meaning
because it was,
like you weren't as tired, you weren't as grinding, it wasn't as vague, the questions were not as vague
yeah, the questions weren't as vague. They were very clear. I could
because you were
clearly see
reading them
the
properly and
answer.
you weren't overloading your reading matrix. And
Yep.
we taught you how to see the lines
Hmm.
of the twisting. Because like, I think so the twisting is the dark side of inferring. Drawing
Right.
inferences is good and an essential part of complex reading. Twisting is when you go outside the lines of it. And a
Right.
bad test taker can't see the boundaries and the where does inferring in and twisting begin. And we taught you
Right.
how to see that. So then all of a sudden
Yeah.
everything's clearer and cleaner. So like it'd be like if you're like a really gifted basketball player, but
Hmm.
something's wrong with your eyes. This is a made up scenario. And you
Yeah.
see the sidelines as like 2 feet narrower and the end lines is 2 feet deeper. So you're like running hard and you're like out of bounds. Everybody else is
Yeah.
like Jacobs are running out, like dribbling out of bounds, and you're like, or like you're like people are inbounding the ball and you're ripping it out of their hands. They're like, nobody
Yeah.
wants to play with you. They're like David, like Jacobs a terrible basketball player. But then we give you special glasses to let you
Hmm.
see the boundary, and it's like, oh, this guy's like one of the best players there are.
Yeah.
So again, another weird eye metaphor that I inadvertently
Yeah.
used.
I was gonna say you
But
got a lot of them right now. I think you,
so, but
you
yeah,
got
but
more of them
that's
than
what it's
me.
like,
Come
right?
on.
And so, and it's also less grind, less
Yeah.
wear and tear. So it'd be like if me and my buddy were the same degree of fitness and we want to go
Mhm.
on like a 10-mile bike ride, and I'm on like a really nice bike that's like proper tires, inflation, gears all work. And then I throw my buddy on a bike with a warped wheel and a flat tire and a cog that doesn't work. And then like 3 miles in, I'm like, come on, buddy, keep up. He's like, he's grinding it out because he's working much harder, churning.
Mhm.
I feel like the bad test taker is on that bad bike. Like
Oh yeah.
it's so mentally exhausting because you're grinding so much
And
all
it's
the way
funny
through the
you say
test.
that because when I was done with the test, this was the first time I wasn't exhausted till I like had to
Yep.
go grab a cup of coffee, or
Right.
even at the halfway mark, we do two halves, 3 hours each with
Mhm.
a 45-minute window.
Yeah.
I wasn't tired.
Yes.
And I was like alert and awake, and I wasn't. I usually have these two nitro cans
Right.
of coffee at the halfway point, and Red Bull, like to get
Mhm.
me going. I
Mhm.
didn't touch it. I'm like,
Mhm.
what's going on? It's just like you guys. Essentially, it's like running a marathon, and you guys gave me good shoes to run this marathon to where I'm
Right.
not tired at
Same
the end.
metaphor, right? Same
Yeah,
metaphor. Tires on a bike, whatever.
yeah,
Very true. Very common experience with this. Very common experience with this.
right.
Um, And then you come out of it, and again, like, you don't know that you passed, I guess, but you might.
No,
What's the thought when you come out of it?
I came out of it feeling the best I ever did.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way I didn't fail this attempt. There's no way I feel like I
There's no way that I
had
failed. You're
everything.
saying you came out feeling there's no way that you did fail it. Like, you
Yeah,
feel like you
I came
passed it.
out of it exactly that. I know I passed it. I'm like, okay, I know I passed it. I've never had that feeling before. I'm like, I had ample enough time afterwards because the time taking you guys taught me how to
Right. The
do.
time is
I had
built into the training.
right, and I had 30 minutes after each test where I could go back and go through certain ones and go to
And
the ones
I
I
don't
was
even care
doing.
about going back. I don't even care
Yeah,
about going back. If you have it,
yeah,
that's
going
fine,
back's the
whatever. But I
biggest
don't even care
mistake
about
you could
that.
do.
But you felt so much different. So you came out and you weren't exhausted. And then how
Yeah.
long between the end of the test did it take for the results to come in?
So that test was August 2nd. I got my results September 23rd. It was the last day, once again, on my family's vacation in Myrtle Beach. We were actually at Myrtle Beach and we were celebrating my mom's and dad's anniversary.
Right.
Went out to dinner, come back. I look at my phone and we get an email from the national board saying the scores are out. I It was like a tunnel to me when I saw that. Uh, it was the best feeling in the world after looking back at it. But I run upstairs, my girlfriend or my fiance now, but my girlfriend at the time, she wanted to record it because she was like, "Oh, this is gonna be
You have
great."
this?
So this is where I messed up. I'm sitting there and I get to the screen and I'm like, okay, I can't even press the send button. I had so much anxiety, like I was like I couldn't press it. I was hyperventilating it, and my brother at the time, he's looking at me, he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, it's out. I can't. I can't do it. I can't."
You're lingering on if you can press to find out if you passed or not.
Yeah, like I've literally am
And
just
you've got
like
all
my
these people there with you?
yeah. I got all these people
Ooh.
there, and my brother's there, and my fiance is trying to run up there. So I just finally like just clicked it, and I thought she had the video because I could hear her voice.
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, she's got the video. We're good. I click it send. I didn't even look at the score. I just saw because there's two colors that you have. You have red, which means fails, and black, which means you passed. I saw black, and I just like I saw the black letters, and I just went black. Like I was so happy, so excited. I
Wow.
don't have I like and I go through this. I'm crying at the I'm not a big crier. I
Right.
think I've maybe cried 10 times in my life. This was one I was just so full
Good
of
reason.
emotion because it was finally done.
Yeah.
um my 4-year-old nieces were all like crying because they thought I was like they're all scared because I scared
Right.
them because I was screaming at the top of my lungs crying
Hmm.
for pure joy.
Right.
And as I come down from it like a couple hours later, I'm like, okay, I gotta see the video. Jake, I didn't is my she's like, Jake, I didn't take the video. You clicked it too fast. I'm like, oh crap.
That would
But
have been a nice little piece to throw in here, but
yeah,
we can
but
appreciate that fact. So you pass. Everybody's happy. Finally, a celebratory Myrtle Beach vacation
yeah.
ends on a high note. And then when was this? When abouts was this?
This was September of 23, so this was
Of what
last
year?
of 2023.
23. So
Yeah,
not even
so
a
it's
year ago of
not
this.
even a year ago now. And I literally I look back at that moment, I can't help but look at like
I mean,
thank you guys for everything you taught me on it,
amazing. Yeah. But
Uh
it's a fascinating jump. So, big picture, again, just to sort of cap that, the passing score was what?
the pass you have to get above a 300. And
300 is a buzz, and you
yeah,
scored 360 something or whatever.
I'll show it exactly. 367 was the exact number.
Very safe,
Uh,
very safe passage, which
e-
you would have been happy with 1 point over. But
oh yeah.
it's a huge jump. It's a huge jump
Oh,
from
it was from when I was I think like I said, I jumped 123, 124 points just from what you guys have
so this
were
is
showing me.
purely from re-engineering that test taking
Yeah.
and so you have now since
Mm.
then you have referred several people to us,
Yeah.
um, and
Eh,
optometry wise. So we've had
yep.
several optometrists come through the doors now in this intervening 8 months or 7 months, whatever it is.
Mm.
And I think you said they've all been successful that you know of.
Yeah, so the ones I've sent let's say I've sent five to you guys. Four actually did the program you guys did, and
Mhm.
all four of them passed. The
Didn't you say
one
one
that
of them even
didn't,
passed? But didn't one pass with even a bigger jump than what you made or
yeah,
something?
the one passed, he went from like the 200s or to, like I think it was even the 100s to 405 or four in the 400 marks, which was even bigger leap.
Crazy jump.
Um,
Crazy. Like these are
Crazy.
the kind of numbers that get people like investigated. Like that they would
Yeah.
look and say like it's more
Like what the
logical.
heck?
Right, that they had somebody else do it for them, but it's because we're
Yeah.
changing things at such a fundamental level. And then you say there was a fifth one that didn't work with us, I guess, right?
Yeah, that individual didn't work. And now that individual, after telling them this, that individual is going to be working with you in this next attempt.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean,
and
it's crazy. And look, there's never any guarantee. It's not the
yeah,
right
there's
fit for
never.
everybody. All that stuff. But if it does fit, and I try to help people figure that out in the interview,
Yeah,
and then you got to do that work. It's work, no doubt. It's work.
yeah,
You're going against the grain of what you've done. You're going against your predisposed behaviors. It makes you
yeah,
look at your ugly behaviors, and it's like frustrating to see them not
yeah.
being extinguished as quickly as we want.
It's just
But
like you don't know what to do at that point. And then it's the light at the end of the tunnel is kind of, at least you guys provide a light. Now, whether or not you want to grab that light or go or kind of use that
well, yeah,
light,
to start
yeah,
trudging to do the slog, it's not even that
yeah,
hard. I mean, it's hard, but
yeah,
it's like you guys are not afraid of hard things. It's
no,
just it does require a specific kind of work. So now you're living a comfortable
mm,
life. You are where you want to
yeah,
be. You're with your fiance. You're working, doing the thing that you want to do, which is just amazing and obviously hugely gratifying to me because this is what we do.
right,
Um, and now you're also like your school because like optometry is going through a bit of a moment right now. There's like some
yeah.
passage issues, right?
Yeah, passage issues across the board. I believe it's in national pass rate on the one attempt was like 60% roughly
That's
nationwide.
that's not
Um,
good.
Not
To
good,
put it
no.
mildly. So but then you were saying to me, and we briefly talked about this, I don't know all the details,
Mm,
but the people at your school are like, look, so what can happen is like something like this happens, and
mhm,
the deans or the powers that be are looking at you, or maybe even eventually to us, like, what did you do? What did you
yeah,
do to that person? Or what did you go do? Because it's like they look at us like we reanimated the dead.
yeah.
I mean, because
Uh,
because statistically speaking, your career was over. You said you crunched some numbers on this. What
yeah,
by your
so
reckoning, what was your percent chance of passing on that seventh attempt?
chance of passing at that seventh attempt was right around 3%. Being 3 years outside of school, being not in a clinical setting, not being a 3% chance for
Three
me
percent
at
chance.
that point. 3%.
So,
And the only reason why I
I
know
don't know
that
if
is
you
because my sister-in-law taught, or she teaches nursing, and she's like, "Do you realize what your numbers were?" I'm like, I don't know. What were they? She's like, "Calculate them." Did it. 3% chance.
so Han Solo taking off into the asteroid field. Like, never tell me the odds. Like, better
Yeah,
off not knowing.
exactly.
Better off not
Exactly.
knowing before going into this. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just an amazing thing. Now, but yeah, but I'm assuming your deans or somebody at the school has, so they're sort of like, what happened here, right?
Yeah, they're we're kind of going back and forth with some emails, trying to get stuff set up, and I really want to bring this to every single optometry student struggling, because it's a piece of the puzzle that you need, that I believe a lot of people need
Yeah.
to get the whole picture. It's the biggest thing for me, at least personally for me. I needed, and I looked at the numbers and all that stuff of like, I just wish I had this at the beginning of this whole journey, so that,
We're a very valuable resource that people
yes,
should know about. I mean, we're small, you know,
yeah,
but we are very effective and we've been doing it a long time and we're really good at what we do. But yeah, it's a small thing and I don't
Mm.
spend a lot on advertising. Like we have like a good work rate and flow, but but I also appreciate that we can really change people's lives and we need to be out there more so people can find us and have the opportunity to find us so they're not suffering and languishing. We could have done this 3+ years earlier.
Yeah,
And
easily. And I
but I mean, to
wouldn't,
nobody's fault. I mean,
yeah.
at least you guys found us and we're, but yes. And so that's a thing that, this video can help sort of share that and you can share this with the powers that be and whatnot. So what else do you have? Do you have any other thoughts that we want to share before we turn the page on this?
I mean, the biggest thing is I really just want to thank you for helping with like set up this program and kind of helping me through this.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
my biggest thing. And I just want to really tell anybody who is out there that is struggling with this testing, with their test taking, with their national boards, anything like that. Like the biggest three pieces of advice I can give any student is one, perseverance. My grandmother taught me that at the beginning. You just gotta keep going forward, keep finding the right pathway. Don't go backwards, keep going forward.
Yeah.
I know it's easier for said than done, but if you have the ability to find the right tools or just open your mind up to doing different reasonings of why you're getting stuff the way you are, that's going to be your best tool here,
Yep. So we
for
got
passing.
perseverance, number one. What else you got?
Number two is you have to, you're not alone.
Right.
There are a million people out there, or there's a lot of students out there struggling just like you, and you could easily, create a network to help each other out. Don't be afraid to say, yes, I failed. Failing's the best thing you can learn from. So don't
But
ever be afraid.
I think in the medical field, especially,
Hmm.
there is such a stigma attached to failure. The
There
word
is.
failure, people don't like seeing it. Like I use the word bad test taker, and some people are like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm offended by that. I'm like, yeah, but you're a bad test taker. Do we
Yeah,
have to
you
call it
are.
that? I'm like, I don't know. That's what I'm calling it. Because I mean, like, it is what it is. I think breaking a system down, giving it discrete names, all the different parts of the
Hmm.
system names is important, but also being able to identify and understand that there are I say in every year of every medical program across the country and beyond, there are people
Hmm.
that fit these patterns. So it's one thing to struggle, right?
Yeah.
And to fail, but understand you're probably not an anomaly. It's
Right.
probably part of a hidden subset. And if we
Yeah.
can understand the patterns, which is what we do with the boards workshop, what we do with our
Yeah.
study skills class and our reboot camps, you find the pattern and then you can plug somebody into it and it's just going to accelerate. And again, it's not like feeding a person individually with tutoring. We're actually taking
Right.
somebody in, taking it apart, re-engineering, and sending you guys out so you can be in charge of your own stuff because you guys are super smart, super motivated people. That's the
Yeah.
nature of these. I mean, you're a doctor,
Yeah.
like, but sometimes you do like help is okay, right?
Yeah.
But it's being able to ask. I think what you're saying is like it's understanding you're not alone, asking for help. But again, I understand it's thorny because you
Yeah.
asked for help the whole entire time, and not everybody's advice is equal. So
Exactly. And
and one thing I pride myself on is if somebody's asking me for help, what I try to remember is like, what is my lane and what is
mm,
outside of my lane? Because sometimes people will get profound benefit from like the test taking help, then they're asking me for other things that are outside of my expertise, and I have to be
mm,
cognizant to be like, whoa, 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 we're outside of my expertise. Now I'm just a guy saying stuff, which is
yeah.
very different than being in that lane of expertise. All right, so we got perseverance, we've got you're not alone, and number three,
Right.
third and final one.
And third and final one, and I tell every single student that comes and talks to me or reaches out to me, I tell them this: I didn't have a good educational background. I went to high school at Brooke County, West
Yeah,
Virginia.
yeah.
We weren't the highest of that. At the time, West Virginia was
Rural
48 in the
Appalachia. I mean, we're from
yeah,
Appalachia, right?
right. I tell every one of my students, you don't have to have a good background to get where you got to go. You just have to find what you got to do. And if I can do it, then you can do it.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing is if I can do it, if I can pass, you can pass. You
Right.
got that's the best thing I could tell them. And anyone who knows me personally kind of looks at me like, yeah, you're right. If he can do it, then I can do it, because
Well, I think the more important part is you were able to, I mean, there was a gap, there was a
yeah,
deficit that has nothing to do with your innate ability.
right.
And we needed to find the right interventional methods but you're the one that did the work. And
Yeah,
again, none of this test taking is beating the test. We're never outsmarting the test. That is not the game. It is about
no.
cleaning up your own user interface and having the open-mindedness, the raw
Yes.
intellectual ability, and the desire and willingness to put in that work to elicit the change on these
Hmm.
big national standardized exams, which are not
Yeah,
changing. I mean, it's really amazing. It's really
yeah.
impressive, that score increase in the face
And
of such adversity against your back against the wall,
hmm.
making it happen. It's
Yeah.
delightful, man. It's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Happy to actually get to see you. Which
Oh,
again,
thanks.
like I talk to people all the time. People see me on these videos. Like our workshop clients spend, I don't know, 6-7 hours in my face talking at them. So like they feel like they know me differently. But it's really powerful. It's powerful
Right.
stuff. And I mean, this is what my life's work is. I didn't set out to do this, but this is what I do. And I love it. And I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing all this stuff with us. So thank you so much, Jacob. And thank you all for watching. See some
Yeah.
links around here. Check out the description for more. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for checking out today's episode. Stay tuned for more episodes in the coming weeks. If you liked this StatMed story, be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel for more. And don't forget to share with any physicians or med students you know who could use our help.